There was 3 boys. One boy was named Jacob. He has short brown hair and dark green eyes. Ethan had short curly black hair and brown eyes. And there was Thomas. He had light blonde hair with blue eyes. Thomas and Ethan were both 14, but Jacob was 16. They were out camping one night. Ethan and Jacob were setting up the tent to go to sleep in. Thomas was waiting for them to finish up the tent. When he was waiting, a loud noise came from the woods behind him. Everyone stopped doing what they were doing and looked at the woods. Ethan had joked and said it was a frog or something. Jacob didn't want to finish the tent, so he had Thomas finish the tent with Ethan. "Are you sure it was a frog?" Jacob said, a little scared. "Well, it could be a bear or a person trying to scare us," Ethan answered, looking at Jacob straight in the eyes. "You know what? Your eyes are more scary than the noise." After an hour or so, they headed to bed, forgetting all about the noise from earlier in the day. Thomas was still up. It was about midnight. He turned to his side. When he turned, a hand was pressed against the tent. Thomas jumped and shook Jacob, who was sleeping next to him. Jacob turned to face Thomas and said, "Yeah? What's up, dude?" He said sleepily, trying not to sound right. "There's a handprint pressed against the tent," he said, stuttering, and pointed out where the hand was. "It was right there." "Yeah, sure, you say a hand. Go back to sleep, dude," Jacob said, then turned back on his side to sleep. But when he turned to his side, he saw Ethan sitting up and staring at a human-like face pressed against the side of the tent. Jacob turned to Thomas and gulped nervously, then whispered, "Sorry." Ethan leaned back and whispered to the others, "It's not human. So what should we do?" No one said a word. When they heard it, no one said a word when they seen the head wasn't human. Thomas was too scared to move, and Ethan was now shaking in fear. It was up to Jacob to figure out a plan on what to do. He was too shocked and scared to think straight. So no one said a word for a good hour or so. But the one that walked first was the thing in the tent outside. Who was to come have fun with me? The thing went slowly away from the tent. All the boys jumped in fear. They looked at one another. We all go out, but I'll take him on. Jacob, you have the key, so you and Ethan go to the truck. I'll catch up with you if I can." Thomas was the one with the plan. Ethan nodded, and so did Jacob. So the 3 boys went out of the tent, and the thing was there, waiting to watch the boys one by one get out of the tent. The thing was tall. It had long black hair and the most darkest version of black you can get. Thomas stepped forward and looked at the thing and said in a low, scary voice, "Let's go play, my boy." He walked fast into the woods. Far away were Jacob and Ethan, who can't see him. Thomas looked at them, but said nothing. When the boys couldn't see him, Thomas no more went for it. They started to run to the truck, then stopped. They looked at each other and then looked back. There it was, standing right there, just a good 2 or so feet away, holding in its hand a stick with blood on its hand. Thomas wasn't behind it or anywhere. Jacob thought back to when they were running. That's right. They heard screaming coming from behind them. He thought. He took a step back and then looked at Ethan. Ethan was scared to death. He was looking at the top of the stick. There he was, Thomas's head. There was Thomas's head. There was something off about it. The hair was gone. Thomas's light blonde hair was not on his head. His eyes weren't there either. That gave Jacob a shiver down his spine. He looked at Ethan and grabbed his hand and ran. They got to their truck. Ethan was sat close to the woods, Jacob in the road. He was just about to get inside the truck when the thing was right behind Ethan, smiling like the Joker. Or at least it had the cuts in its face. Or the cuts like the Jacob yelled for Ethan to get in the truck and fast, but there was no answer for him. The thing looked down at Ethan and said in a now low and crazy sounding voice, "He is sleeping. Don't wake him." Jacob didn't have time to say a word to the thing. He just locked the truck and drove down the road. It was a good halfway home when the man was standing in the road. Jacob looked a little closer and saw it was the tall thing from before. He hit his brake, making the car engine go out in a loud sound like a gunshot. It slowly walked up to the side of the truck and tapped on the window 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. On the 3rd tap, he looked closely inside. Soon, he was eye to eye with it. Jacob screamed in fear. It broke the driver's side window and grabbed his hair. He could feel the hair on his head getting ripped off, one by one. He screamed in pain, but nobody was there except the thing ripping his hair out. It grabbed his head and slowly pulled him out of the truck, from his seat, and through the broken window to the ground of the road. The thing looked at Jacob and said, "We need to go home." It sounded like he was playing with him. Jacob cried in pain. Blood was running down his face. He didn't want to leave. He didn't want to die right there on the road. He tried to plead to let him go. He said he wouldn't tell. But what came out of his mouth was a mad thing. Out of his mouth made the thing even more mad. "You rotten piece of flesh!" It grabbed his hair even more tightly, turned to the woods and walked and pulled Jacob slowly behind him. The last thing that could be heard from Jacob was a scream of pain. None of these boys were ever seen again after what happened in the wood of Collindale.